Yeah. Okay. Right. Hello, and welcome to this second of 3 webinars on creating Captivate content in template. My name is Mark Waterfield, and I'm a Captivate instructor and developer. Last time, we looked at the general purpose of Captivate and the workflow involved in creating modules in it. I created and edited a Captivate module from template, and we investigated the key panels and menu items in the workspace. We'll be recapping this as we go through today's content. Me? Okay. Okay, is that better? You getting me? Yeah, sorry. Okay, so yeah, we'll be recapping the what we did last time as I go through, and I'll be recording last time I also recorded a software demo. What that means is I captured an editable movie that demoed how to perform a function within Word. If you recall, I was finding and replacing text in Word, and it makes an editable movie that by screen grabbing each time you engage during the recording with the software, it screen grabs, and then those screen grabs become slides, and onto each one of those slides, Captivate adds a number of items, mouse movements, text caption, highlight boxes. Okay, so in this webinar, the subjects we're going to be covering are how to create interactive Captivate content with the interactive slides in the template. And we're going to be learning about adding audio and adding subtitles using text-to-speech. And also, we're going to look at adding animation effects. We'll also have a question and answer session at the end, and I can troubleshoot any questions, any problems you've had since last webinar. And bear in mind, you can also contact me at any point on mark@markwaterfield.com. So what do we mean by interactive? Last time, the slides that we created were mostly kind of static slides, and they had things like text boxes, text caption placeholders on them, image placeholders on them. And the idea was you double-clicked on those placeholders and added your own text. And those are going to feature in the slides we look at today, but in addition to that, there are going to be interactive objects. So you'll have to click on, or your user will click on a button and a text caption will appear, or an image will appear. So these are known as interactive slides. And they should make the content more engaging to the user and therefore more effective. So I'm going to make a more interactive module during this webinar. But just to recap on the process, the workflow you should be going through when you create a piece of Captivate content. There should always be an extensive planning stage. And that planning stage should include strategic planning, and by which I mean big picture planning, thinking about the course structure, you know, the body of learning you've got to get across, and, you know, how that naturally falls into sections that will probably become modules. But also thinking about how your user is going to use the content with regard to how long you make the modules. So if it's some compliance content, they might resign themselves to sitting down for 25 minutes to work their way through this content. But if it's a bit of software training, they may want their answer very quickly, and therefore they want them, you know, a short module they can get to quick. So do the strategic planning and do a storyboard. So you know, with that software simulation or demonstration that you're doing, you want to, before you go into production, do a granular level script of each click involved in the process. and also for your compliance or soft skills training, a slide-by-slide script that details in depth what's on every slide at every stage in the learning. And important, as I said last time, to share these scripts with project stakeholders before going into production, so that they will flag up anything you haven't noticed, any languages you may have used that makes assumptions about people's understanding and prior learning. So it's always worth getting some feedback on your script before you go into production. And then you will go into the, I will go into the production phase. I'm going to create a template from, create a project from template as follows. I'll go File, New Project, and then Project from Template. So I'll navigate to where the CPTL file is stored, and I'll select it. And this will generate a CPTX. So this is the file that you're going to actually edit, and this CPTX that's generated will already have the Syngenta theme attached to it, so it'll all look branded in to the corporate look and feel, and also there will be a suggested structure in the film strip of slides for you to follow. So the first stage of doing that production stage is going to be to complete the welcome and contents and introduction slides as per last time. And then we're going to move into some more interactive slides. And those interactive slides will be, you'll find them further down the film strip around slide 16. And as you open your CPTX from template, initially that group of interactive slides will be collapsed, and you will need to click on the little blue arrow that is pointed at here in this image to expand the group. And as it expands, a group of 6 interactive slides will appear, but they will all be hidden. They'll all have this little eye icon next to their thumbnail in the film strip, which means that though you can see them in the editing area, they will not be visible in the output. So when you publish, if the slide you're working on hasn't got or has this eye on it, then it won't be visible. So you need to click on that. That will make the eye disappear, and it will make the slide visible in output. So what do they look like, these interactive slides? They look very similar to the static slides, but they will have a couple of features on them that you haven't been seeing before. They will have interactive objects on them. These will be buttons for the most part, and typically the buttons will look like these green green blocks here. You can see they'll have a little pause symbol, because that's going to pause the timeline, the way those buttons are set up. And also the likelihood is that they will be locked, because in the template, these slides have had, and these objects have had scripts placed on them to make them do what they're supposed to do. And they should work without you having to do any editing on them. And ideally, at this level anyway, you should leave those locked and not mess around too much with the interactive objects that have been placed on the slides. Now, as you get better at it, then you'll be unlocking them and editing the scripts and really kind of expanding what's happening with the module. But initially, I would suggest leaving them and letting them do their thing as planned. Okay. Just returning to the sort of the workflow for a moment. Remember that when you make a module from template, the workflow is once you've edited once you've gone through the production editing phase where you are actually making your slides from the script that you created, you should be sharing your work in progress version with your stakeholders, probably the same people you shared the script with initially, and getting their feedback and making whatever necessary updates come back to you. And then once you've done that, your your last stage of your workflow is publishing, and you're going to publish out to HTML5. But you'll also, as you publish out of Captivate to HTML5, you'll be making a SCORM compliant publish, which means that alongside the HTML5 files, you'll be publishing a number of XML files that are going to tell the learning management system what it needs to know about your module so that it can deliver it effectively and track it. This is stuff like the name that you want displayed on the LMS interface for your module, and also the pass mark if there's a quiz or something like that in the module. So key information the LMS needs to know about your module is contained in the SCORM compliant publish. All right, so I'm going to make a module. It's going to be interactive, and the brief. So this fictitious module, as it were, that I'm going to be creating is to. So Office 365 has been introduced into your organization, and you have been tasked with creating 2 modules that will briefly recap the features of Office applications, the main Office applications, and introduce the key updates of the updates to the main Office applications. Okay, so that's what we have to do. So now I'm going to move into Captivate and create from templates. So the process of doing that, as you will recall, is going up to File and coming down to New Project, moving over and choosing Project from Template. I will then browse to where I have my CPTL file stored, which is in this Syngenta folder here. Yours may well be on a networked drive. But I will then click Open, and it's going to create me a new CPTX from the CPTL file. Incidentally, there is a new update to the Caption, which I've done, and that should be, if it hasn't been shared with you yet, it will be shared with you soon. All right, so we have now a CPTX from the template. So it's currently called untitled 4.cptx, and the first thing I always do is save it, give it a name, because I don't want it called untitled. And so to save it, I'm going to click on this save icon. And because you know, when you save, you may get this message, depending on what version of Captivate you use. What it's saying here is that you know, this project that has been created is a Captivate 9 project, and if I save it, it's going to save it to Captivate 2017, which is the next version on, which is what I'm using here. So the template is authored in Captivate 9. So if you have Captivate 9, you'll be able to open and use the template, because I understand there's a lot of Captivate 9 in the organization still. So you'll still be able to use it, and you won't see this message. But if you're on 2017 or 2019, you'll see this message, and you'll have to, and that's fine. You're just updating it to your version of Captivate. So so I'm going to save it and name it here. So I'm just going to name it Office 365 MW1, and great, that's named, and you can see the updated name there and tabbed up here. And so let's fix or set up the first of the slides, the slide that always has to be left in the project, or one of 2 slides that always need to be left in the project, the welcome slide. So I'm going to, I've created a script that I'm going to be referencing during the production of this module, and here it is. And there's the the first thing is to give the module a title. So I'm going to double click in there, get that ready, and then go back over to my script. And the title I want to put in here is Overview of Office 365 Part 1. And I can just paste it in. And you'll note that even though it is red in my script, the formatting is not coming over. It's updating to the formatting in Captivate, which is what we want. Okay, so there you go. Overview of Microsoft Office. I click this, which is the placeholder, which is a prompt. You know, remember, a placeholder, which is a prompt placed on the slide to get you, telling you, right, well, we need something in here. In this case, it's an image. So I'm importing the image, and I've got my images ready. And the image I'm going to choose is 030365. So in that comes. And I've made this image to size. It fits the specified area. And if you need to, if you're preparing images for use in a module and you need to know what size they have to be, then you simply select the placeholder, and you will see in the properties panel the W and H height and width values required for that placeholder, because whatever image you put into an image placeholder is going to expand to the area specified by the placeholder. Okay, so over here is a text captions placeholder, and this, let's just get the kind of intro text here, which I'm going to copy out of my document into the text caption placeholder. And yeah, that is pretty much it for the welcome slide. I've told people what to expect. I've given it a title. I've added an image. Right, now let's go to the content slide. The content slide is very similar. It's got the title goes in there. Again, I'm just going to copy that same title over into the placeholder here. Expand it out. And, you know, obviously, occasionally you will have to expand your placeholder objects to put in additional text, as I've done there. That's fine. Just make sure you leave the top corner where it was positioned. So yeah, it's fine to make it taller in this case, and possibly even a little bit wider, but leave that where it is, because that's really the basis for the layout. Okay, so in here we've got a few other things to talk about. Firstly, up here, there's a title placeholder. This is the menu bar title, and this features on every slide. This is a placeholder up here again, and I am going to get the menu bar title, which is similar to the main title, but I've abbreviated it a bit just so it will fit nicely into the menu bar. So I'm pasting that in there. Now what I'm going to do with this, I didn't talk about last time really. This is on every slide, apart from the welcome slide. This kind of menu bar title for the module is there. And so you don't have to go in and put it and add it every time. You can, once you've put your title in, you can go to the timing tab and specify display for rest of project. And that is just basically going to be there on every slide from this point onwards. Now, this confuses people a bit, because if you look now to the next slide, you'll see it looks really horrible there, because you've got the title from the last slide, because it's playing for the whole of the project, you know, and you've got the placeholder that was on this, or is still on this slide. But don't worry about that, because that will not show up. That's a placeholder. Unless you click into it, it's invisible. So even though that looks a bit kind of unsightly, it won't be a problem in the output file. And it's going to save you a lot of effort going into each slide and updating the title if you set that for rest of project. Okay, Other than that, on this slide, what we have is the these interactive buttons. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. So the interactive buttons, they, if I select those on the Properties tab, you can see they have an action associated to them already, okay? And that action is currently go to next slide. However, that's the action we actually want on that is for it to jump to a slide. Now, this module is going to cover 3 software applications: Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So I'm going to have 3 jump to points on this contents page, 1 for each of the software applications. So I'm going to just go in there and type Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And when the user clicks on this 1 button, it's going to jump to the start of the Word section in the module. Now that in our module is going to be this one. We haven't done it yet, but it's going to be the topic starter for Word. So that is topic 1. That's the name of the slide. So I'm going to put a jump to on the Word button that takes the user, jump to slide, and takes them straight to topic 1. Okay, and then as you build the module, you'll do the same for this one. Okay, the last thing to do on this slide is just add the image, and again I'm going to import that and it's that one, Office. Marvelous. Okay, and then the next slide here is a preamble slide. This is going to just be an introduction to the module as a whole. And so let's go back to the script. There's the preamble slide. And this is just the first thing is going to be, what is Office? Okay, so that's my subtitle. Into the subtitle placeholder goes, what is Office 360? And then we're going to be going into this text. Placeholder and pasting in information about Office 360 and going into the image placeholder and bringing in an image representing the logo, a small version of the logo. Okay, so that's set up, that's described what we're about to see. You can see down here, this says this is Preamble 1, and there's Preamble 2 as well. Now, you don't have to use every single one of these slides. In fact, you know, rarely will you. So a lot of the time, what you'll do, if you don't have a specific requirement for a slide, I would suggest, until you've actually completed the module, hiding that slide. Rather than deleting it, just hide it, because that means it's not going to be in the outputted HTML5 files, but it's still there. And you know, if you decide later on, oh, actually, I want to use that, then you've got it there to use. And that's particularly important in the interactive slides, because if you delete them, because you think, oh, I'm not using that one, and then you decide, oh, later on, oh, I do want to use that one. If you've deleted it, you've deleted all the scripts that were attached to the interactive one as well. So you know, you can't get them back. So it's a pain. So use hiding until you're absolutely certain you've finished a module, I would say. But what I want to do next is look at the first of the interactive slides in the project. And as I mentioned in the introduction, to get to the interactive slides, I need to go down to this group and click on the blue button to open up the interactive slide group. And there's a blue one there, and there's a green one there. These do roughly the same thing. They've got kind of a button there, and when you click on the button, it shows some text in this section here. that's very similar on this one, okay? But as I mentioned, I think last week, there's a kind of color code that Syngenta want you to follow here, and that is that the green slides represent the introduction of a section or a module, and the blue is the actual content. So we're still on the introduction at this stage. So I'm going to choose the green one. I'm going to drag it up to the top of my film strip. Not the very top, but after that one I just completed. Hopefully that will drop in there. Nope. In there, all right? And so that's going to follow this basic introduction about what Office 365 is, and then we're going to have a bit more depth with this interactive slide. The next thing I need to do, obviously, as I've mentioned, is switch the visibility on, unhide it. Okay, so I've got it visible. And now let's have a quick look at what we actually have on this slide. So as I mentioned also before, there are the three locked slides, the three locked objects rather. They represent the buttons that the user is going to be clicking on to discover the key information about the subject, about the applications in this case. And there's just, apart from that, they're all locked. We don't need to mess around with them at this point. But the other elements aren't locked. They're just standard placeholders. So again, I'm going to be referring to my script here, and the subtitle here is Key Office Applications. So I'll copy that across up here, and then under that we've got please click below, which is the kind of instruction. The users, which goes in here. These are all just placeholders. This is going to say Word. PowerPoint. And again, here we've got an image placeholder, which is going to import an image of Word, an image of PowerPoint, and an image of Excel. Again, these images are made to size for the placeholder. Okay, so so that's the effectively the button. Although those are elements, and the button, as you can see, if I unlock one of these buttons and select it, you'll see that as it becomes selected, there is the Excel button, and it's covering both the Word Excel and the image. Okay, and as also, whilst we've got it unlocked, I'll just show you on the Actions tab. There's the event that's attached to that lock button. Basically, as the user clicks on it, show this named text caption, text 6, which is this one. Okay, as if I select text 6, which is this, you'll see there's its name, text 6, and there is a little icon next to it. Again, the eye with a line through it, indicating that currently, even though we can see it, the user won't see it. It's hidden. And when the user clicks on this button here, it's going to show it. Right. Let's relock that. And the last thing before we test this out will be the process of copying in the actual content itself across. And then once we've done this, we'll test it out. And hopefully we'll see some interactivity. Right, so got all the content in place. Let's preview next 5 slides and test it.
I've got a question. You just have to unlock the button to show us what it does. How do we know when just using the template without unlocking?
You don't. In order to, I showed you it to demonstrate it. It will work without unlocking it. You don't need to. Basically, the functionality is on that button already. The scripting that's going to make it do what it needs to do is already on it. And you shouldn't need to unlock it at all. The only time when you need to unlock it will be if you want to do something more than the basic functionality of that slide, of what that slide's designed to do, which you will come to eventually. But now, so I only showed you, as I say, I only locked it to show you, but now you can see that these objects are working as buttons to reveal the text.
So how do I know what the slide is designed for?
Well, I'm showing you here really, and I can add in some descriptions to the template if necessary. There were some in the original. Some of those are gone, but yeah, that is a good point. We can add some into the template. So I can add notes that are hidden from the user onto the slide that explain the point of it. So there is a basic interactive slide, and let's continue on. That's overviewing the purpose of the project, and we're not going to complete this next one. The next slide here is a topic starter. So we're going to quickly add an image to that. So because we've introduced what the module is going to be about, and now we are starting the section of the module that's going to deal with words. So I've just put in a big image there, and I'm going to double click into this placeholder here to add word. I don't need a subtitle on that one. And so we're now into the word section. So we've got some content slides here. The blue slides, as I mentioned, are the content slides. And what I will do here is copy the title out this slide across, which is key features of Word. And so this is going to, walk you through the basic features of Word. And what we're going to do with this slide is investigate text-to-speech technology, okay, that we have in Captivate. And we're going to see a number of the key features of Captivate are going to come in, key features of Word are going to come in as bullets, in sync with some audio that we're going to generate. But the first text caption is going to say, here are some key features of Word. All right, so I'll just double click that, place that in. And then what I could do is just paste a number of the key features into this thing and bullet point them, but I want them to come in, as I say, in sync with the audio. So I'm actually going to have a number of text captions on the slide. So what I'm going to use is duplicate. So I'm going to just right click and duplicate that slide, and then I'm going to duplicate that text caption and position it, and then I'm going to start pasting the key features of Word into the duplicate text captions, like so. Control A, Control V. Now, I want this particular text caption to be a bulleted text. Now, the original text caption on the slide was a default caption style text caption, okay? And in the template, you have a range of styles, approved styles, that you can apply to objects. And you can, as I click on the style name, this list of styles appears. By and large, when you're working from template, you just use the styles that are on the placeholders already that you're using. But in this instance, I want a bullet point as well. And there is a bulleted default caption style. So I'm just going to switch styles to bulleted default caption style, and you can see that's updated to add a bullet point in. And I'm going to duplicate that. When you duplicate, Captivate places the duplicate 10 pixels to the right and 10 pixels down. And what I'm doing here when I move items around the slide is I'm using the up and down and left and right arrows on my keyboard and the shift button. And when you hold down shift and hit the down button, it moves at 10 pixels. If you don't have shift down, it's 1 pixel at a time. It's very time consuming getting things moved around, but it's a very effective way of arranging your slides. Okay, so the second feature is mail merge, so we're going to have that in there. And we'll duplicate that. Find and replace. And the last one. Watermarks. Now, okay, so with the content in place, I want it arranged slightly better. Now, to arrange your objects on your slide, you're going to use the alignment panel. Now, I may have mentioned this last time, not sure, but you find the alignment panel on the, if you go up to window and come down to align. Mine is already out. Let's get rid of it and then show you it here. So what you'll typically see, the default arrangement won't have the alignment panel visible, but if I go window align, it will appear there. But for the most part, you can see it's grayed out. But as I select items, the buttons are going live. Now, I'm going to select all 4 of these. So I'm shift clicking, and you can see the first object I selected was spell check, and that becomes the anchor object. So if I just do that once more, you click on that and then hold down shift. All subsequent objects that you select are black, and the original anchor object is white, and that is the object that they're going to refer to. So I want them all left aligned. I'm going to click like that. I want them all evenly spaced. I'm going to click the distribute vertically, and now they're all nicely organized on my slide. All right. One more thing before we start looking at text to speech. Let's get this image in again. We need, actually, what we want is word menu there. Okay. So we have our, we've got the slide in there, and that's okay, but you can see if the content's on the slide, but each of the blocks in the timeline down here represent an individual text object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them roll, coming in sync with the audio I'm going to add. So as spell check is mentioned, so the bullet will appear. So to do this, I'm going to use the text-to-speech functionality. And you do that by going into the slide notes panel. Now, again, if you're not seeing slide notes when you're on your version of Captivate, you'll find it on the window drop-down. Window is always where you go to look first for panels that you're not seeing. Captivate has a fairly simple default interface, doesn't display many panels by default, and you'll find you go up to window a fair amount. Slide notes is there. And slide notes is where, as I say, you add your script. If you're going to read your own script in, you can author your script in slide notes panel. But if you're going to use this text to speech, as we're about to, this is where you add the text for that. So to add text, you click on this big plus and you paste in the required text. So the first thing that's going to be said is, here are some key features of Word. So I'll paste that in as my first slide note, and then I'll add a second one. And for this, I'm going to refer back to my document. So spell check, there's a whole bit of a sentence or two on spell check, and plus, again, mail merge, plus. So each time adding a new slide note to copy, to paste into. And finally, watermarks, something on watermarks. Right, so we have them all in the panel now. And in order to convert them into audio, so this is the idea here, we are generating the audio. We first have to make them convertible, and to do that, we click on this checkbox here. There's a column of checkboxes with a speaker icon and a T. So you first click that, and that means that these slide notes are now convertible to audio. Then you click the speaker icon, and that will open up the speech management panel, where you will see at the top the very glamorously named speech agents, which are the list of names. Each are slightly different. So Bridget is English, UK English. Chloe is French Canadian. James, Julie, Kate, and Paul are all different types of American. Yumi's Japanese. And now I've got these because I have downloaded them. They are a free download that if you haven't downloaded them, you will see a download link in the left-hand corner of your speech management panel. And all you do is download it and install it. If you haven't downloaded them, you'll probably just have these default ones. And they're not too bad, but it's very much definitely worth getting and downloading the free ones. And if you want to go out into Spanish or whatever, you can buy, there's a company called NeoSpeech. NeoSpeech makes these speech agents, and if you need a Spanish one or Italian, whatever, you can buy one from NeoSpeech that will work in Captivate. All right, so you can see that its default set to be Bridget each time, but you could conceivably have a conversation between Bridget and Paul, or something like that, by setting one to be, you know, one slide note to be Bridget, the next to be Paul in this drop down here. But I'm going to leave them all as Bridget. She's as I say, UK English, and you just click on Generate Audio. Now, that has generated the audio. I'm just going to unmute myself briefly here.
Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go, to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails, but consequently with unique elements.
Okay, you can. I'm not going to play all that. Hopefully it wasn't too loud, but you get the idea. They have the audio has been generated, and we can close that down now. And I can, if I go over to the timeline, you'll see that at the bottom of the timeline we now have this audio file, which again you can play from in here. I'm going to turn myself down a bit there. I'm on absolute. That's giving me. Anyway.
Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go.
Okay, so that has generated the audio, and what I want to do now is trigger these bullet points to come in sync, to appear in sync with the audio. And you can see this. Sorry, here are some key features. That one's going to be in from 0, but the other ones we're going to move along the timeline until they're the relevant point. Okay, so I'm going to select them all. So because I want to move them all to the right until their appropriate time. So I'm shift clicking to select multiple objects in the object stack here in the timeline, and then I'm going to go, oops, I'm going to go right, like so, because I'm looking at the audio file there, and I can see that there's a dip there, so I think that is where it says here are some key features of Word, and then this point here is likely to be where spell check is set. Now I can double check that by.
Here are some key features of Word. Spell check.
You can see it's coming bang in on the word spell check. So that spell check is in the right position, but so I want to leave spell check at that point. But the others, they need to move along the timeline. So I'm going to shift again and then click on spell check. That will unselect spell check and effectively leave it where it is. And now I can drag the remainder right to the next point. Now I don't know where that is. It might be here. Okay, let's just test it.
You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned.
So that was wrong. I needed to drag it further along to here, where mail merge starts.
Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails, but consequently with unique elements. Find and
all right, so again, hold down Shift, unselect mail merge. That leaves it where it is. You can see it's different color, and I'll drag the remaining 2 along the timeline to this point, and that's where find and replace happens, so I can uncheck find and replace to leave it there, and just take watermarks down to that point there, and we'll just double check it.
Replace. This searches for all occurrences of a particular word or phrase and replace them with an alternative. Watermarks. Insert the watermark specific to your objectives via the page layout button.
Okay, so that's now in sync. So the audio is happening in sync with the text on slide, But the other thing that this wonderful slide notes panel will do is generate closed captioning or subtitles. And you can see, if you look now back at the slide notes panel, there is a second column which has gone live. Now we've got some audio, and that is the closed captioning audio CC title. So as I check that top checkbox, it converts all of that text into closed captioning. And if I, in order, so the closed captioning can be set up in a number of ways. It can be forced on the user. You can set it so that it always appears, or it can be set up just by the user clicking on the closed captioning button to make it appear if they want it. So that's going to be up to you how you decide to go on that one. But generally speaking, you're going to need a button to switch your closed captioning on. And so let's see how you do that. How you go about doing that is you go up to the project button and come down to something called the skin editor. Now, the skin editor is where you control what buttons you offer the user. And you can see that we've set ours up in a fairly limited way. Just two buttons, and a forward button and a back button and a progress bar. Well, if you've got closed captioning, you're going to have to add a button to switch your closed captioning on and off with. And so that's what I'm going to do now. And as I've done that, you'll see a CC button has appeared in the right-hand corner. But what it's also meant is that this little grey or white filter thing isn't long enough now. So I'm going to have to adjust that so it's a bit wider, so it covers the full transport. But also, once you switch that closed captioning button on, and remember, closed captioning is subtitles, you get the settings button, and this settings button opens up a screen that allows you to control what your closed captioning or subtitles look like. Okay. Now, as it's opened up, it's actually only controlling what the closed captioning on slide 7 looks like. And a quick tip is to go, rather than just leave it on 7, is to go to project, and that, when you do that, then it's changing the whole, across every slide in the project, what all the subtitles are going to look like. Okay, now I want my subtitles to, I mean, some of them, they've got a fair amount of text on some of them, so they need to be a bit wider than 30%. That isn't going to be big enough. So I'm going to change the width of them to 75%, which is quite wide. And I'm also going to change the position of it to bottom left, because the transport is here, isn't it, the play bar. So you don't want it going over the transport. And now we've got that kind of aligned left. I think I'm going to align the actual text itself to the left like that. So you're gonna, when it actually runs, you're gonna have a transport bar there, and the closed captioning is going to appear there. So you might also want to make the text size of the closed captioning slightly bigger. Let's try 15. This button here is useful. If you check that, which I'm going to do, then the closed captioning just comes on by default. The user doesn't have to click on that CC button. They can click the CC button to turn it off if they don't want to see it. But if you put that on by default, then it's there, and that also simultaneously makes the user aware of the fact that there is closed captioning on the module, so you don't have to tell them. So I'm going to switch that on and hit apply and close. Now, this isn't going to be perfect yet, because there's a few other things we need to fix, but if I now preview next 5 slides on this slide, what should happen is, as it runs, the closed captioning.
Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails, but consequently with unique elements. Find and replace. This searches for all accounts of a particular word or phrase and replace them.
So you can see it's happening, but the problem is at the moment is it's not in sync with the actual, the subtitles aren't in sync with the audio, and that's the final stage of getting this set up, really. And the way you do that, to get it synced up, is double click on the audio file. That will open up the individual audio file, which is, you will come here, and if we get a chance later on, I'm going to show you how to record your own audio. But why we're here now is we're going to look at the closed captioning tab of this panel, and you can see on this closed captioning tab, again, the audio and the closed captions. And these yellow lines, which you see coming down through the audio file, are the points at which it changes from one closed caption to the next. So you have to drag these into position. And you do this just by listening to it.
Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge.
Okay, and that's where it says mail merge, so that's where I need to move on to caption 3. Okay, and then I can just click into this and
unique elements. Find and
okay, and you get a knack anyway, for working out where it's likely to be after you've done a few. And I think that last one looks like it might be roughly the right place already.
Watermarks.
It is.
Insert a watermark specific.
All right, so once you've done that, you save it, close it, and if we preview it now, it should be roughly right.
Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails.
Okay, that is now working. It's now in sync. And it's a very worthwhile feature, I think, because there are many people in open plan offices who won't want to listen on speakers. They possibly don't like using headphones. Or perhaps they may not even have a sound card on their computer, so they won't be able to hear the audio you've put on. Okay, one last thing, and then we'll have questions. This text-to-speech isn't perfect for everything. You're not going to use it, I wouldn't say, for something if you're asking the user to sit down for a 25-minute session and listen, for 25 minutes. I think it's a lot to ask someone to listen to a computer-generated voice for that length of time. So you'd get someone in to do it, or you'd do it yourself. You'd record yourself. However, for a short kind of 1-minute module, it's really useful, and it's it's not much to ask someone to listen to a computer-generated voice for a minute. I think that's acceptable, and it's quick. So it's useful for that, but also for work in progress versions, you're going to use. I use text-to-speech all the time when I post up working progress versions for review, because the script is changing all the time as people input, and so it's just very nice and easy to update the audio for a particular file by just changing the slide notes and regenerating the audio. So it's very user-friendly whilst you're in development, even for the longer modules. Okay, should we have some questions?
I missed this last bit where you clicked to synchronize the, your caption with the audio. Just where you went in the menu, I didn't see that bit.
Okay, all right. So what you do is back in your actual main timeline, you double click on the audio file. Well, that feedback. Is that you? Are you hearing that feedback?
So I can switch my mic off again.
Okay. So what you do is you double click on the audio file there, and that opens up the slide audio panel. And within the slide audio panel, there is the closed captioning tab. And then, as I say, typically what I would do is use the slider to just compact it a bit so you can see what's going on.
Yeah, I saw the rest, thanks. I just didn't see the start.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, moving on. Right. So, the next thing we're going to look at is another interactive slide. So following this slide, I'm going to start detailing the new features of Word, and I'm going to use an interactive slide called the that I call the process slide. It isn't actually called that, but it's very good for processes, and it's down here in the interactive section. So before I forget, I'm going to unhide it and drag it up to where I want it to be positioned, which is further up here after that audio slide that we just did. And again, as I say, this is an interactive slide which by default is set up to not require any unlocking of the many interactive objects. It's got 6 interactive buttons on it, but the idea is that clicking on these interactive buttons is going to show a text caption. And so you're going to sort of describe a process. Okay, so let's get the rest of the slide done first. If I go into my script, the first thing is this keyword updates text. That's the image, which is we're talking about text to speech this time in Office, okay, in Word. So I'm adding an image there to demonstrate what we're actually talking about. I'm actually going to expand that subtitle as well. And next, we're going to grab the descriptive text, which is going to live down here, which actually is there as well. All of this is going to come up and into the slide. Double click and Control V to paste that in. All right, so we now have our most of our slides set up, and the next thing we're going to do is just put these steps into the text captions on the right hand side here. So let's get the steps. First step, select that. So, you know, the beauty of working from template is if you do a good plan, putting your module together involves a lot of this, a lot of copying and pasting, because the design work and the styling work of your module has been done for you by the template. You don't have to think so much about how you're going to lay out slides, because you've got a selection of ready-made layouts that you can make use of. And you know they're approved. Okay, so 4. And what you'll notice here is I have only 5 steps, and there are 6 steps on the slide. We don't need our 6th button or our 6th text caption. And this is the first instance really of the day when we are going to unlock a button, an element, okay? Because we don't need it, we're going to delete it. So I'm just going to unlock it. You can see that they are labeled in the object stack here, the button, so I know which button to unlock, button 6. And now it's unlocked, I can select it and delete it. Weird thing about this though is that because this element has come from, it was originally a placeholder element on a master slide, it requires deleting twice. So I've deleted it once and it reverts to a placeholder, and a second delete will actually get rid of it. Objects that you add rather than placeholders will only need deleting once, but these are originally placeholder objects, because these slides that I'm working on, the ones that are in the film strip, are edited instances of the master slide that I've put extra code on to make them work. Okay, so we now have the correct amount of buttons, and if I preview this slide, it should work. Nasty click. Okay, so the user needs to click in to reveal the process. And what we're going to look at now, though, is a way of just forcing the user to click it in the correct way, and forcing the user, you know, to click through all of the buttons. In order to see it and in the correct order, like I say. And what we're going to do is a bit of editing, as I say, on our slide that's going to involve unlocking these remaining buttons. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to unlock them all. Because what I want to happen is when the user first comes to this slide, they're going to see one button there. They click on that one button and that reveals the button 1 text, the first step in the process. And simultaneously with revealing that step, the second button is revealed, and they can therefore click on that and get to the next one. But they can't get down and go straight to slide step 5. They've got to do it in the right order, which hopefully will consolidate the learning a bit. And we're going to do this by using the timeline and staggering the appearance of the buttons along the timeline. As the user clicks on the first button, the playhead's going to move along to button 2, and then it's going to move along to button 3 and 4, etc., etc. So let's start the process by selecting the first button, because I need to, in order to do this, I need to edit this point here. This is the pause point. This is the point where this red button, this red line, which is the playhead, that's going to stop. That's what that pause symbol means. But we're going to have multiple pauses along this timeline. So that button 1, let's look at its properties. If I go to its timing, it's set to pause after 1.5 seconds. I want it to pause sooner than that, because as I say, I'm going to have multiple pauses. So I'm going to I'm selecting the timing tab, going to the pause after, and I'm going to type in 0.5 there. So it's going to pause after half a second. And you can see now that has updated this particular button. And excuse me. The other thing I want to do with this is change what happens, because currently when the user clicks on this, it's showing this text, which is what we want. We want to leave that, but also we want the playhead to continue along the timeline. So we've got to change a little setting here, continue playing the project. So when the user clicks, not only does it show this text, it also reactivates the playhead so it rolls along the timeline to the next pause point. Okay, and so now I'm going to get the remaining buttons, shift clicking, okay, and I'm going to drag them to the right to 1 second, and then I'm going to select button number 2 and make similar changes to that. Firstly, I'm going to click on the continue playing button. So once the user has continued, the playhead runs along the timeline. And also, I'm going to change the pause point so that this pause point comes after 0.5 of a second. And you'll see that's moved that up to there. And now I'm going to do the same for the other remaining buttons. And you can do this if you multi-select, shift, click, like that. You can change multiple properties. For example, I can set them all to continue playing the project in one check. So all 3 of them are adjusted to that. And then their timings. The pause point, I don't want it at 1.5. I want it on all 3 of the remaining ones to be at 0.5, and they'll all adjust like so. All right. So then it's just a question of setting them up so so again, like I did with the like I did with the audio slide, if you shift click, you can leave articles selected, shift. Now I want to leave 4 where it is now at 3 seconds, and just move the very last one, button 5, to there. Right. Okay, so let's now just recap what's going to go on before I preview it. So as I preview this slide, the playhead's going to run along to there, and it's going to stop. And all we'll see at that point is button 1. As the user clicks on button 1, it's going to show that text, and it's going to roll along to this point where button 2 will appear, and the user will click on button 2, and it will show the second text, and on it will go down the timeline. All right, let's have a look. All right, so far so good. You can see what's going on here. So that, I think, is a bit more of a intuitive way to, it's going to consolidate the learning a bit more, and also it's giving you a bit of an instruction on the on staggering on the timeline, which is a useful technique. And we saw that in the audio slide as well. And as we get into the next webinar, so people are then going to be saying, okay, well, how can I make it so that the user can't advance unless he's clicked on all 3 or 5 of those buttons? Because that's the next question. Yes, you can do that. It's a bit more complicated, and we will deal with that next time. It's one of the things I'm planning on dealing with next time. Because obviously there are certain things you want to force home, and you don't want them to be able to advance to the next slide until they've actually looked and they can prove they've looked at all those things.
It's a good question. Can we add gaps between the 1 and 2 buttons? I mean, 2 appears after the inner text related with 1. So button 1 comes, click button 1, the text comes, and then
you could do that with the timeline. Yeah, that would be a question of if you wanted to leave. Well, you could even make the text clickable, so that would advance it as well if you wanted to. But yes, you could do that. So you don't want the 2 to appear until kind of the text has been there for a while. So that's all about your timeline. So it would literally just be a question of dragging 2 further along the timeline, and that for like 5 seconds. So if you wanted the text to appear on its own for 5 seconds and then the 2 button come up, what you would do would be to drag this. I mean, there isn't enough time in the slide currently, but you just drag that number 2 button till it appeared 5 seconds in, or 7 seconds, 5 seconds in, right? And then so you'd have a much longer timeline, but that would be fine. You'd be forcing them. You'd be emphasizing that text caption that has appeared, as you say, for a little while before the next option appears, so they can't just go whizzing through it without reading it. But like I say, you can also literally force them. They can't move on until they've clicked all those buttons. So that's a bit more advanced, but we can aim to cover that next time. Any other questions at this point? No. Okay. So let's now look at another one of these interactive slides. And I just want to demonstrate a few. Before we're going to look at we're going to hopefully do some more audio recording content, but also some animation content. But what I wanted to show you was this interactive slide. Now, you can see this is slightly different in that the elements here are already unlocked. This is interactive. This is the bit that the user is going to be clicking. This oval is what the user will be clicking in order to reveal this text here. And like I say, I think we should do a version with a text caption expanding on that, or explaining that to the left here. This image is obviously a stock image, and you would want to include your own images. But the point is, you can make your image a nice, oval shape, or it doesn't have to be an oval shape. With that selected, you can see in the style properties of the properties panel, if you don't want an oval, you can change it to any one of these different weird and wonderful shapes. But let's stick with oval for now. But this is a button, and you can change the image. It's like an image button. You can change the image that displays in that oval by selecting the oval and going to the fill section of the properties panel. Now, these what are called smart shapes, and these are the objects that can be drawn on using this shapes button here, you can see this flyer here allows you to add all manner of different shapes in Captivate, and you can create your own shapes using this polygon tool as well. So that, yes, you can actually. When you've made a shape, if you right click on it, you'll see somewhere in there. Why is it not showing it? Okay, not in this instance. But yes, you can. I'm not sure why it's not showing it there. It might be if I draw a shape. I suppose it's not showing it because it's already existing as a shape. If I draw a shape there, now that shape can be heavily edited as well, but if I like that shape particularly, I can right click and save smart shape. Okay, that one wasn't doing it because it already exists in the menu, the library of shapes. But that is a new one. So yes, it's worth spending a bit of time getting a shape absolutely right, and perhaps importing an image from Google or something like that and just tracing around the outside of it and then go and save shape. Quite a useful feature. So smart shapes are very versatile, and they can be filled with pretty much whatever you like. If you can see this smart shapes properties, you've got the option of solid fill, so you know your full range of those are the hexadecimal colors. Those are your themed colors. Those are the colors that are in the Syngenta theme currently. These are the web safe colors. So any color can be used to fill a smart shape, and also any sort of gradient. The gradient, you can create all manner of different gradients or use one of their default gradients. So they're very versatile, but they're especially good for making these image buttons. So let's go over to this one. So switch this back to image fill. And if you want to, you can choose. If you choose this slide, what you're going to do is go into it like that. Click on that fill color picker, and then go to the folder icon and browse to import the image that you want to use to populate your smart shape. Okay, and so this one. So I'll just very quickly go through and update the the 3. So this might be another way to, do that introduction slide, the overview slide. It just makes it look a bit nicer, really, having this oval. And just one other thing. Let's say we've got that. We don't need this final one. We can select and delete that. And delete that. And again, they are placeholder objects, so they need double deleting. But if I then want to rearrange this slide, I'm going to shift click these 2 objects because they want to be in alignment with each other. And position them. And again, I'd be using the alignment panel to get a nice. Let me go too far here. Not too far. So let's say I wanted to have these nicely arranged. I go evenly spaced like that, and then line that one, select that, and then align that. And the other thing to mention on this, I guess, is the ability, if you wish, you can make these respond to the mouse over and mouse down. By default, if I preview these for you, you'll see as I mouse over this, any one of these buttons, and they, as I click, you'll see they reduce in size. So there's a bit of default kind of animation as such, such as it is on the button, on this object when it gets converted to button. You get that kind of slight reduction in size. But you can do a bit more than that, quite a lot more than that. So if I wanted to, I could click on that state view button here. And this allows the state view button, again, we'll get into a bit more next time, but objects can have multiple versions of themselves, essentially. So this button has 3 different versions of itself. It has its normal self, it's how it has how it looks when the user rolls over it, and how it looks, if you want, when the user clicks down on it. You get a rollover, exactly, that sort of thing. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the rollover, and I'm going to set the opacity to drop. So as the user moves over it, it drops down a bit to indicate that you've engaged with it. And then maybe on the down, I'm going to go down even further, going to go down to 20. So as I say, multiple versions of itself, effectively. They are pre-existing, because once you convert an object, these have been converted automatically. Well, they've been converted by the template to buttons already, and as a button, it automatically gets 3 states. If you want to add states to an object, you can do so, and we'll deal with that next time. But now as I move over that, you can see it's responding, it's dimming out, and as I click, it's dimming out even further. So it's just giving that extra level of interactivity to things. And any object, well, any smart shape can be converted to a button, and basically a smart shape can be any shape, so your buttons can be pretty much any shape you like. Okay, so I just want you to do a quick intro there on the smart shape and what it can do. We'll start to introduce what it can do. But let's now return to the bulleted slide where we have the audio playing and the bulleted points appearing in sync with the audio. We're just going to, as a way of introducing animation, I'm going to have these appear coming in from the left as they are mentioned in the audio. And how you apply an animation to an object is by use of the timing tab. So I want to animate the appearance of this spell check bullet. I've selected it and I've gone to the timing tab, and in the timing tab, down sort of in the middle of the timing tab, are a number of animation effects. And you can see as I mouse over an effect, it previews for me on the slide. I'm not applying it, I'm literally it's just a live preview. So those are the basic ones. There are 5 categories. And the one I am going to use here is entrance. And within entrance, you'll see you've got several weird and wonderful things that you can do. But what I want to do is fairly straightforward. I just want it to ease in on the right, like so. So that's the preview. If I apply it, to apply it, I click it. And you can see that has applied the animation. So now as I mouse over it, it's still previewing for me. But let's say I want it to come in from slightly further out. What I do, this green arrow represents the start point of the animation. This red line is the motion, what's called the motion path. Now I want it to come in a perfectly straight line into position from the left. So again, I hold Shift. In Captivate, it's always Shift. Shift does so much to keep things in order. I am dragging it out, holding Shift, and therefore it will only go in a straight line. I'm not going to get a wonky path. All right, so I'm going to apply that to all of them. So let's just start by applying it to all of my objects. Well, what happens when you, again, shift? If I shift like so, it disappears. There are shortcuts, but I'm not going to, well, you can save an animation effect, but again, it has a few foibles, so I don't use it. So I'm just going to apply the, just apply it to the two remaining ones, and then just demonstrate something else. So let's say I want them all to, they all want to come from the same point. Yeah, you could drag them all out. What's worth just demonstrating to you now, I guess, are these things, rulers. These allow you to just make, if you want to position something on one slide in exactly the same position on a slide further down the project, if you add a ruler on, a guide, at the position where it is on slide A, then on slide E, that ruler will still be visible, so you can pop it in exactly the same place. I've got a lot on here at the moment, but let's say to add one, you just go into your ruler and drag out, and let's say I want it there, and I would then just drag everything out. Oh, do it again. So they're all coming from the same start point. All right, and so now if I preview this,
here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails, but consequently.
okay, so you might want to adjust the point at which it appears to be slightly earlier than that, because there was a bit of a delay going on. But that's obviously something you just tweak in the timeline. Not with, yes, you can with objects, but not with those animation start points. But if you look here, it says snap to guide. So yes, positioning an object, but it doesn't seem to work with those arrows, which is a bit annoying. Incidentally, let's get rid of those guides. The other thing that it's gone out of my head. I thought of something. It's gone. Anyway, oh yes. So these can be a bit annoying when you on the slide, the motion path, and you can get rid of that by unchecking it. So once you've got it animating the way you want it to animate, and you don't really need to see the motion path anymore, you can uncheck show motion path, and it will disappear as it is doing now. But you will get this little indicator that in the timeline, objects with animations attached to them have this little black down arrow. So if I click on that down arrow there, you'll see that there is a red block representing that animation. And you can use that if it occurs to you, oh, I think that animation is too slow, you can make it smaller manually, and it will happen the same amount of animation, but in a shorter time. But of course, you can do that numerically as well by using the effect duration thing. So this is the manual way of doing things. This is the numeric way, and this is a lot more precise, frankly. But anyway, quite useful. And just a few other things on animation before I move on. I'm just going to quickly add a sort of a properly blank slide here. Right, okay. So I'll just show you a couple of things here, and then I'll show you a tiny bit of well, how to record audio, and then we'll have some more questions. So like I've got a shape here. What I wanted to show you was the motion path section, because I have actually found this quite useful for things like process mapping. So if some sort of very dull process that you've been tasked with representing on slide, you can do it with a series of bullet points, or you can use something like custom scribble, which will let you draw a path, all over the shop, and your object can travel along that path. So these are quite, people dismiss them as a bit kind of like froth, who's going to want to do that, but it's surprisingly useful, I think. And you've got to make use of everything you've got at your disposal, I think. So yeah, just explore these animation effects. And also, just to mention, if you put something on by clicking it, as I have here, and you want to bin it, you want to get rid of it, you'll see applied effects list here, and you can just click on that dustbin, and that will remove the effect. If you've applied something by mistake by clicking when you meant to just mouse, or you just had a change of heart about an animation. All right, so let's bin that slide. And the last thing I'm going to attempt to deal with is the process of recording yourself. Now, where is that? It's this one. So obviously on this one, we have used text-to-speech. But now we are going to investigate, let's imagine that this has all been signed off, everyone loves it, and now you're going to add your audio for real. So how you do that is with the slide selected, you're going to go up to audio on the menu bar, and you can see you've got a number of options here. Import audio. So if you've had someone, a voice artist, as it were, recording your audio externally, and they've just sent you the audio file, then you're just going to import to slide and browse to wherever you've got your MP3 stored and put it on, and it will go onto the slide. That's nice and easy. If you're recording yourself, you will go record to either slide or slides. Now, I would say the best practice is to have your, you do your recording. If it's you doing it, do it in one go. Try and get it done in one sitting. So you'd be doing slides because you'd have all your slide notes ready on all your slides. So your script would be entirely signed off and in position, and you'd want to record it in one sitting. So let's imagine I have, in fact, I'm just going to add some sample audio onto this second slide. Next slide, so I've got a sequence. This slide. Okay, so so now I'm going to record audio over the two over slide 8 and slide 9. So I'm going to go record audio to slides plural. It then asks you what range of slides you want to record onto. So I'm just going to go onto 8 and 9. But you know, typically when you do this, you'd be doing the whole project. So I'm okay into that, and that takes me into the slides audio recording window. The first thing I'm going to do is click on Captions and Slides, because that oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong slide here. I want to go to that one. Sorry, as my start slide, because that's got all the. So record audio to slides 7 and 8. So yeah, the first thing is to get your captions visible, like so. So I clicked on the Captions and Slide Notes button, and your script appears. Now, you can make it bigger, like so. And this is where having dual screens is quite good, but it'll be fine. So, and I can make that nice and big, so it's easy to read using the big A over on the right hand side here. And over on this side, I need to check that the correct device is being listened to. And it is volume mic. This is my headphone mic. So to set up your recording, you're going to click on that link there, the device link here. And if you have a posh mic plugged in, or more than one mic to choose from, as I have actually, use this. Select the mic you want to record, or that you want Captivate to listen to, because obviously I've got an onboard mic as well. And then I hit the calibrate input, and this is going to take a recording, set a recording level for me. Okay, so when I click auto calibrate, it is listening to me talk, and it's setting an appropriate recording level for my mic. Okay, now I'm going to go with what they've said. Typically 1 isn't quite loud enough, but you can adjust it after. So I've now set up my microphone, given it a mic level, so I can OK out. Now, if you want to, you can also preview the slide that you're talking about, but really you don't need to. I wouldn't switch it off, itchy that, and I've had situations where clicking that preview button, that brings the slide into this view here, but it has caused Captivate to crash. So if you've got your script written, then don't do that, leave it unchecked. And then in order to do the recording, just simply clicking on this recording, this red circle, and when I click on it, there'll be a countdown, and then I will read the slide notes. Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Mail merge. This allows us to send out bulk emails, but consequently with unique elements. Find and replace. This searches for all occurrences of a particular word or phrase and replaces them with an alternative. Watermarks. Insert a watermark specific to your objectives via the page layout button. Okay, and there I am, hopefully. Here are some key features of Word. Spell check. You can correct your spelling errors all in one go to ensure you haven't left any stone unturned. Okay, so you can see, I'd probably do that again, and obviously the mic isn't ideal. There's a lot of kind of ambient noise going on there. And when I do these, I hate doing them, incidentally, but I do them sometimes. I would do it on a much better mic and in a controlled room, a dead room, because with audio recording, the deader the room, generally speaking, for this sort of thing anyway, the deader the room, the better, because you don't want any echo. So the minute you get echo, it starts to sound a bit amateur. Okay, so let's imagine we're happy with that. What we would then do, but you know, we want to make a couple of tweaks, chop out a few hesitations, or just top and tail it a bit. You would then go over to the edit button, the edit tab, okay? And the edit, when you're in the edit tab, you have the ability to click directly into a sound file and then hit the bin to delete it, and that just chops that a bit out. You can't do that on the add and replace tab. So you might want to go in and chop some of those out, but probably, to be honest, what I do with that is I'd probably do it again, because I wasn't entirely happy with it. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't entirely happy with it. All right, so then, and then of course, what's happened, just lastly, when you are happy with a recording, you can click next slide, and that takes you right to the start of the next slide, and your next slide audio comes up. Yeah, which is why I put some closed captioning into that next one, so you can read that one as well. That's the text to speech stuff there. So if you've got all your script in your slide notes panel, then it's very easy, or it's much easier to do multiple slides in one sitting. You get a much more consistent tone to your voice. All right. So yes, that is probably all we've got time for on audio recording. But what we'll see, just one other thing, is what you'd need to do would be to go back into, like we did before. I just double-clicked on that audio. That's my new audio file. And once you've recorded it yourself, you'd need to go in and resync your closed captioning, because I'm on the wrong slide. And the closed captioning's disappeared. Why is that? Okay. Need to go in. That's weird. Okay, hang on. Let's just go back in there and close captioning. Just slide that down. Slide notes. There they are. Yeah, you're right. Then I'd need to start applying these, reapplying these. So don't spend too much time on your text to speech, before your module is signed off, getting those crossover points. Don't spend too much time getting your closed captioning bang on right. Save that to the end till you've got the actual audio in there, and then do it, because it's going to change. Your timings will be different when you do it for real yourself. Okay. Yes.
This is really question. So
Okay, well, there's nothing else. Just with the audio, the other thing to say is it is well worth getting hold of a decent microphone if there isn't one in the organisation. if you're going to do the audio internally, then it's definitely worth it.
It would have been good to try and get hands on after the session so we could ask questions and try that question.
Yeah, definitely they should get a trial version and to have a play. You get a 30-day free trial, so it's
Fine. Sorry, I think that's the only way out, because just to try it out, because I mean, I know you're showing that showing things which are very important and which we will be going to do anyways in developing the course, but unless we really like be hands-on with
yes.
it, it's just all going to fly by, you know.
Yes. Well, you can get a free 30-day trial from Adobe, and it's well worth downloading it.
Okay, and I mean, will generally the trial versions have some of the features locked?
No.
Do you think these are fine? It's
fully functioning.
Okay, perfect.
It's just what will happen is anything you create, the output file will, after 30 days, you know, that won't work. But whilst during that 30-day period, everything works. And if you then get a proper license, then anything you've created in that 30-day period is also okay, and that'll be fine.
So where will my output go, Mark?
Well, when you publish, you go to the publish panel here. We looked at this panel last time, and you specify HTML5.
Okay.
You hit this wherever you specify here is where the output files will be published to. So there's I'm going to put it on my desktop. You know, so I'm just pointing it at the desktop, and it will output a folder full of HTML5 content to my desktop, and then then you put it wherever you want. I mean, if you're posting a work in progress, then you might put that up on SharePoint.
Right.
But if you're going up to the LMS, you would also set up your SCORM settings, which are mostly set up in a template, but you might need to do a few tweaks on them. And the SCORM version will need to be zipped. You would again possibly put that to your desktop and then upload it to the LMS. So you'd log on to the LMS and then going to browse down to your desktop and pick up the
zip file, the .zip version maybe. Okay.
Exactly, and then the LMS will unzip it on board.
Right. Right. Okay. And with the trial version, I'm guessing the trial version won't have the CPTL, or should I keep the CPTL separate so that I get the CPTX, the Syngenta colored templates and all of that?
The trial, you'll be able to, if you have the CPTL on your machine or on a networks drive, you'll go into Captivate and you'll go file new from template, and then you'll just browse to that CPTL
location.
So that's entirely wherever that's stored. That's entirely separate from your trial installation. Or
okay. So I can still use the Syngenta.cptl version even with my trial version.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
It's just that like having Word downloaded and opening a existing Word file. I'm guessing.
It is. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Brilliant. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you for the next session on the Wednesday, the 7th of August. It will be running from 2 till 4 o'clock UK time. And Mark will go into some more advanced features during that session. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now and finish the session. Thank you.
Thank you.